In the sprawling expanse of the universe, among countless galaxies and countless alien races, one species, though relatively young and new to the galactic stage, had made an undeniable mark: humans. Their rise from the chaotic survivalist history of their homeworld, Earth, to the interstellar age had been swift and filled with hardship, but also a demonstration of incredible resilience. Earth's history had shaped them into a species that could adapt and evolve under the most extreme and violent conditions, something no other species in the galaxy truly understood until they met them face to face. They had become known throughout the stars as Deathworlders, a name given to them not by their own choosing, but rather as a byword of awe and fear from other races who witnessed their sheer determination to survive the unthinkable. The reputation of humanity as Deathworlders was no exaggeration. Their homeworld was teeming with wildlife that could, and often did, kill or maim any being that ventured too far into the wild. They had survived against natural disasters that obliterated entire ecosystems and faced environments where only the most cunning or most powerful could survive. For humans, every moment was an exercise in survival, taming nature and taming their own fears, pain, and weaknesses. It had been a constant battle, and the experience had shaped their minds and bodies into tools of incredible resilience. They had evolved to meet the challenges that nature threw at them, but it was not just the dangers of their planet that had forged them. It was their capacity for learning, adapting, and overcoming insurmountable odds that made them feared across the galaxy. When humanity ventured into space, they met many races, some advanced and others still struggling to reach the stars. Some of these alien civilizations were welcoming, others hostile. But in all cases, humanity stood out not only because of their technological prowess, but because of the stories that began to spread across the stars. No matter the alien species they faced, humans seemed to thrive. The phrase Deathworlder became synonymous with toughness, grit, and an unyielding will to survive. And so, it was no surprise that when the Kalians, a species of highly evolved, war-hardened beings with exoskeletons and immense physical power, heard of the humans' legend, they could not help but be both curious and skeptical. The Kalians were a formidable species, ruthless and fiercely proud of their gladiatorial combat traditions. They had mastered the art of physical combat, cultivating immense strength and stamina through generations of war and duels in their arenas. To them, combat was the ultimate form of self-expression and honor. The gladiatorial arenas of Kalian were legendary across the galaxy, where the strongest and most skilled warriors from all over would gather to demonstrate their might. Their duels were not merely contests of strength, but displays of culture and tradition, with each combatant bringing their unique weapons, skills, and tactics to the fight. The Kalians believed in the purity of their tradition, fighting for pride, for honor, for glory, and the concept of dueling was sacred to them. When the humans arrived on Kalian, a rare diplomatic mission brought them to witness the Gladiator Games, but they were also invited to participate. The Kalians had heard of humanity's reputation for combat and survival, and while they respected the humans' resilience, they were still dismissive of their combat abilities. After all, the Kalians reasoned, no species could possibly match their own long tradition of warfare. A peaceful gesture at first, this invitation to the gladiatorial games was also meant to demonstrate Kalian supremacy to these upstart humans who had dared to challenge their place among the stars. Among the human delegation was Lieutenant Commander Thomas Hale, a veteran of numerous military campaigns whose reputation as a fierce warrior had preceded him. His body bore the marks of his battle scars from conflicts in hostile environments, his hands calloused from years of combat training, and his eyes hardened by countless experiences of leading his men through harrowing trials. Hale had been selected as part of the diplomatic team not only because of his military expertise, but because of his ability to represent humanity in the most diplomatic of situations. The humans needed to demonstrate their strength, yes, but they also needed to show their willingness to learn and adapt to the cultures of others. As the day of the duel arrived, a sense of anticipation buzzed through the air. The massive gladiator arena was a sight to behold, an enormous coliseum, carved into the rock of a mountain, with tiered seating that could hold tens of thousands of spectators. The crowd, filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, had gathered to witness this event. The Kalians, their large exoskeletal bodies gleaming in the sunlight, filled the arena with their booming voices and fierce shouts of encouragement for their champion. The human delegation, though smaller in number, stood proudly on the sidelines, their faces calm but with the same quiet determination that had gotten them this far. The Kalian champion, Drakthor, was a fearsome gladiator. He was massive, standing nearly 3 meters tall, with a heavily armored exoskeleton and an energy blade that hummed with deadly energy. His reputation was built on a legacy of victories, with none able to stand against him for long. His very presence in the arena was enough to send a chill through the other competitors, and the Kalians were confident that the humans would quickly realize the futility of facing such a warrior. Lieutenant Commander Hale, though human and appearing less imposing, stood at the ready. He was clad in a lightweight but durable combat suit that provided him with increased mobility and protection. He wasn't relying on size or brute strength, he was relying on strategy, agility, and his extensive training in close-quarters combat. His goal wasn't to kill Drakthor, this wasn't a battle to the death, but to prove that humans could fight just as fiercely, just as effectively as any other species in the galaxy. The battle began with the ceremonial clang of bells, and immediately, the Kalian champion lunged at Hale with terrifying speed. His massive claws tore through the air, aiming to crush the human in one blow. But Hale was quicker than Drakthor anticipated. He darted to the side, narrowly avoiding the Kalian's claws, and countered with a swift strike to Drakthor's exposed side. The crowd gasped in shock. No one had expected a human to be able to land a blow on a Kalian, let alone avoid their devastating attacks with such ease. But Hale wasn't fighting with force. He was fighting with precision. He used Drakthor's own momentum to his advantage, constantly shifting, never allowing the Kalian to gain control of the fight. As the battle wore on, Drakthor became more enraged. His strength was undeniable, but it became increasingly clear that the human warrior was no ordinary opponent. The Kalian's moves, though powerful, were becoming predictable, while Hale continued to evade and strike with surgical precision. The crowd, initially skeptical of the human, was now stunned by the display. This was not a contest of brute strength, it was a contest of skill, and the human was proving himself more than capable of holding his own. The human stood there, his breathing steady, his eyes locked onto the Kalians, and in that moment, there was no fear, only the drive to continue. With one final move, Hale used his agility to flip Drakthor onto the ground, pinning the Kalian in a hold that left him no room to escape. The crowd erupted into stunned silence, and then the roar of applause came, louder than ever before. Drakthor, though humbled, extended a hand to Hale, acknowledging his skill and resilience. This wasn't just a victory, it was a statement. But the true shock came when Hale, breathing heavily but calm, looked up at the Kalian leader, Akrath, and said it was just for practice. His words were simple, but the weight they carried was profound. To a species like the Kalians, who saw combat as the ultimate test of strength, the idea that a human could treat such an intense duel as mere practice was both baffling and, in a way, terrifying. The Kalian warriors, who had dedicated their entire lives to mastering combat, couldn't comprehend it. To them, every fight was a fight for honor. But for Hale and the humans, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about the process, about the improvement, and about becoming better with every challenge faced. This mentality was alien to the Kalians, and it shook them to their core. In the days that followed, as the human delegation left Kalian, the galaxy buzzed with new rumors and stories. The Kalians, for the first time, saw a human in their midst and were forced to confront the reality of what the human race was capable of. The reputation of humans as Deathworlders was no longer just a title. It was a reality that every species in the galaxy would have to reckon with. The humans, meanwhile, returned to their ships, satisfied with the knowledge that they had once again demonstrated the power of human adaptability and determination. For them, the duel had been nothing more than a practice session, a chance to sharpen their skills and test their mettle. But for the galaxy, it was a wake-up call. The Deathworlders were not to be underestimated. They had just begun to show the universe what they were truly capable of. And this was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson. The humans, these so-called Deathworlders, were not only survivors, they were warriors who would shape the future of the galaxy, one practice duel at a time.